to Live Your Bliss Today. This is your host, Kenyette Kilpatrick, and today we have special guest Brad Yates on the call with us. Brad Yates is a personal development coach and tapping expert known internationally for his creative and often humorous use of emotional freedom techniques, EFT. Combining his background training in energy psychology and various schools of thoughts in the area of personal growth and achievement, he coaches groups and individuals in achieving greater success, health, and happiness in their lives. Brad has had the privilege and pleasure of working with a diverse group of clients, including CEOs, professional athletes, chiropractors, psychiatrists, corporate and federal attorneys, award-winning authors, and residents at a program for homeless men and women in Santa Monica, California. For several years, he taught a weekly class using EFT and guided imagery at Sacramento Drug Court and has been a presenter at a number of events, including several international energy psychology conferences, the Walk on Water, or WOW Fest in Los Angeles, and Jack Canfield's Breakthrough to Success event, and has done teleseminars with The Secret Stars, Bob Doyle, and Dr. Joe Vitale, as well as been featured on a number of internet radio talk shows. Brad is the author of the best-selling children's book, The Wizard's Wish, the co-author of the bestseller, Freedom at Your Fingertips, and a featured expert in the film The Tapping Solution, along with Jack Canfield, Bob Proctor, Dr. Norman Shealy, and Dr. Bruce Lipton. Brad's eclectic background includes several years as an international performing actor. He is a graduate of Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Clown College, where he was selected to be the MC and a featured performer in the final show, Under the Big Top. Brad is a caring professional with a sincere interest in seeing people produce extraordinary results. He has 650 videos on YouTube that has been viewed over 12 million times and is a contributing expert on the Huffington Post. You can learn more by visiting his website at www.tapwithbrad.com. On today's call, Tapping into Bliss, we will discuss how bliss is a natural state for us, how and why we block and limit it, how to clear those blocks, and why this is good for us and others and not simply selfish. Please join me in warmly welcoming to the call Brad Yates. Hi, Brad.
Hey, Kenyette. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so happy to have you here.
I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Well, Brad, perhaps we can start by you just telling us what is emotional freedom technique and why you call it the emotional acupuncture without needles.
Yeah, so EFT, emotional freedom technique, is a process of tapping with our fingertips on different places, particularly around our face and torso. And if anyone who's listening is new to tapping, I know that sounds weird right off the bat, but stick with it. There's a reason why we do it. It's worth doing. Originally, it was based on acupuncture. So a psychologist named Roger Callahan was working with a woman with a lifelong water phobia and trying to use acupuncture and acupressure to help her relieve the stomach issues that she had when she thought about water. He actually cleared her fear just by tapping on a couple of, actually just tapping right under her eye, just one of the points that we use. And so he discovered that that emotional issues were caused by this disruption in the energy. So there's a flow of energy through the body, and when the energy is flowing naturally, we experience our natural state of well-being, physically and emotionally. And when the energy gets stuck, then we don't feel so good. So the tapping, just like in acupuncture, they would stick needles in key points to stimulate the healthy flow of energy. Well, we're just tapping with our fingertips. We get to avoid the needles and still get the benefit of getting the energy flowing and getting back to feeling good.
Well, Brad, what is the relationship between our emotions and the choices that we make?
Well, it's actually huge. We're making choices all the time. And most of the choices we make at an emotional level, where part of us says, I don't feel so good. What can I do to make myself feel good? or I'm bored, or I'm scared. Like if imagine we have to make a sales call. We've got to call somebody up and or some kind of business call, and we're nervous about that. And we're sitting there and thinking, oh, I feel scared, and unconsciously, because most of our choices, 80 to 90% of our choices are made unconsciously. So unconsciously, part of us is saying, I'm really scared. I don't feel so good. What can I do to make myself feel good? I know. I'm going to go get a snack. And so instead of making the business call that could really benefit us, we go and have a snack that probably doesn't help us and maybe takes us away from certain health goals. So we're constantly making these little choices. For every conscious choice we make, we're making another 10 choices or so unconsciously based on emotional feelings, trying to make ourselves feel better. So when we can use the tapping to clear out those uncomfortable feelings, then we have greater freedom to think more clearly. And so I say that emotional freedom is the freedom to make better choices.
I see. Well, I know a lot of people are suffering from things like upset stomach or nervousness or anxiety, and I know that EFT has helped them tremendously. That was something that I was actually had issues with a while ago that EFT helped me with, and I was so appreciative of being able to learn about that. Well, how can EFT help people to make better choices and achieve better results?
So for the results that we want, there are different things that we need to do, different action steps we need to take. Making those phone calls, all kinds of different things that we need to do. But we get blocked. We feel resistance. Something inside of us says, I'm not sure I can do that. It may be fear of failure. I'm afraid that if I make the phone call, I'll sound like an idiot. The person will say no, and all these different things that we are afraid will happen that feel uncomfortable. And or we may even be afraid of success. And the thought of, gee, what if I make this phone call and the person says yes, and I start making a lot more money, and then my life changes. And as human beings, we may want certain things to be different, but we don't want things to change. Change scares us. There's a part of us that wants everything to remain exactly the same because we like the familiar. We like having things that are known. Even to the extent where our life might be crap, pardon my French, there's a part of us that says, yeah, it's crap, but it's my crap. I know where it goes. I know where it belongs. Yeah. I know how to handle it. I may not enjoy handling it, but I've been handling it for so long, I've become pretty good at handling it. And so there's a part of us that totally resists change, and so we resist taking the actions that can create change. We resist making those choices. If we can consciously make a choice of, I'm going to be healthier. I'm going to lose some weight. I'm going to get stronger and more fit. And so we make that big conscious choice, and then we have all these other little unconscious choices of, yeah, but I really want to have a bite of this right now. And, that first bite was so good that I want to have 15 more bites.
Yeah, right.
And so the choice to be healthy is lost to the choice to quote-unquote feeling good.
So it's like you sabotage yourself oftentimes,
yes.
And you don't even mean to do that.
Absolutely. And I was saying self-sabotage is simply misguided self-love. Because as we're sabotaging ourselves, we're trying to take care of ourselves. Having that bite of something is intended to make us feel good. So it's an act of self-love. It's just misguided because it's not getting us what we really want. We're sacrificing what we want most for what we want right now. And in those little choices. So because it's an act of self-love, that's one of those places where we want to be much more compassionate with ourselves. So often we beat ourselves up for making these choices. Oh, I can't believe I had a cookie. I was trying to lose weight, and I had a cookie. I'm so stupid. I'm such a, I'm such a jerk, and we beat ourselves up. And the truth is, we're not stupid. We're brilliant. We're brilliantly taking care of ourselves. We're just operating from an outdated manual. We have an old manual that, part of this is going, I feel bad. What can I do? And we look and we find our fifth grade manual that says, when you feel bad, eat a cookie. That was fine when you were in fifth grade. So we need to upgrade our manual. And now, so we beat ourselves up when we should actually be going, wow, thank you. Thank you for trying to take care of me. Let's find a healthier and better way to do this. And tapping is one of those ways to do it, because we can then deal with that uncomfortable emotion in that moment without having to turn to the cookie.
Right. So instead of doing that, we need other ways of approaching what happens when you need something else other than a cookie, for example, to make you feel better. So, Brad, can you explain how the technique can help people beat cravings and impulses to overeating and overspending?
Yeah, and that's the great thing, is that every time we might want to reach for a cookie, we might not have a cookie right there, but we always have our hand there. So we can always tap. It's that moment of, I don't feel so good, I need to do something to feel good. Oh, I could tap. And that will reduce the discomfort. That craving is something inside of you saying, I need to feel good at the moment. I need to turn to my drug of choice, whether that's, a cigarette or alcohol or a cookie. There's all kinds of different things that we have that we've learned over time. This is what helps me relieve the anxiety I'm feeling. It's even though I may know I'm going to pay a price later, I'm going to have a hangover, I'm going to gain weight, I'm not going to sleep well tonight, I'm going to this or that. We know that in the long term that those things we're craving are not beneficial to us, but in the short term, we have all this program that says it'll relieve my discomfort in this moment. I'll deal with the craving. I'll deal with the consequences later. I just can't deal with the consequence of being uncomfortable right now. So that's where tapping comes in, because it's so easy to do. It's right there, right now, at any time. That's why one of the books I co-authored was called Freedom at Your Fingertips. It's that freedom from those cravings, like you said, spending. That shopaholic. It's what we call retail therapy. It's like I feel better. Shopping is just another drug. It's that it gives us some instant gratification. And I'll deal with my overextended credit card later. I'll deal with the consequence later. In the moment, I just need to feel good. And having this thing will make me feel good, even though part of me knows it's going to go in a closet and I'll never see it again. Right. In the moment, it's going to make me feel good. So,
and it's funny, too, that you would choose something that makes you feel good in that moment, but it actually has worse consequences than if you hadn't done that at that point in time.
Yeah, because somewhere along the line, earlier on in our life, that consequence wasn't so bad. When we were children, we could eat cake and ice cream, and most of us didn't gain too much weight. There was a time when we bought something, and it felt really good. And we certainly get a lot of messages on television and commercials. Buy this, it'll make you feel good. So, the first time we bought something, we didn't blow our credit card, and so it's like, hey, the consequences were minimal, and I got that pleasure. But then over time, with any kind of addiction, with any kind of behavior like that, it builds up where we need more and more and more. And suddenly our body or our credit limit or whatever it might be can no longer keep up with with the habit. And so now we're overextended. It's like that line from Top Gun, your ego's writing checks your body can't cover, or something like that. So we're doing that. That part of us inside that's trying to make ourselves feel better is still writing checks, even though the account is depleted. And so now the consequences are much more real. But we're in that habit, and so without something, it's it's not just a thinking thing. There's a feeling thing going on, and so without something to deal with the feeling, it's very hard for us to just go, oh, you know what, I really shouldn't have that cookie. I guess I'm not going to have it right now. You know, I really shouldn't buy this right now. I should be much more rational. It's like when we're in that uncomfortable feeling place, we aren't rational, because the way the brain works is most of the time we're thinking from the front part of the brain. It's called the prefrontal cortex, and this is the part that's very clever, creative, very clear thinking, makes all the best choices. But when we get upset or we experience a threat of some kind, we start thinking from the midbrain, and we go into fight or flight, and we start pumping cortisol through the body, and we feel stress, and we feel upset, and we're no longer thinking from the prefrontal cortex. And all we can think of is, what do I know that makes me feel good? And we resort to old habits. As we do the tapping, and we have scientific studies now showing that when we're doing the tapping, we're dramatically lowering the cortisol levels. We're moving ourselves out of that stressful state, that fight or flight state. So tapping is the quickest form of stress relief that I know of, and there's no drugs involved, so it's not there's no negative side effects, and it dramatically lowers the cortisol, and so we start thinking again. Our thought process starts moving back into the prefrontal cortex, and we start thinking more creatively about, what do I really want right now? What will really benefit me right now? And as we think more clearly, we make much better choices, and then we can really create that much more blissful life. Because there's a part of us that knows what our bliss is. We may be afraid of figuring it out. That's another thing that we can tap on, is clearing the fear of knowing what our bliss is, because that means change. And so with the tapping, we're clearing out that stuff that doesn't feel like bliss, that doesn't feel good, and it allows us to have the freedom to think more clearly and make better choices and take better actions.
Right. Well, now, Brad, you mentioned earlier about tapping under the eye. That was the way the woman got over her fear of water. But what are the areas tapped for EFT, and how are they associated with emotions?
Yeah. So the tapping points that we use are endpoints for meridians. In traditional Chinese medicine, there are these different meridians, these pathways of energy through the body. And so each of the tapping points that we're using are endpoints for these meridians. So when we do the tapping, and we use the index and middle finger generally, we'll use the fingertips. And folks can go ahead and try this right now. The points that we're tapping, the first one actually is we start on the side of the hand. We call the karate chop point. So if you were to imagine breaking boards with your hand with the karate chop, right there on the edge of the hand between the pinky and the wrist. So say, and you can tap with either hand, you can tap with both hands at the same time. So for the sake of demonstration, I'll say, taking your right hand, using the fingertips of your index and middle finger, tap the karate chop point on the edge of your left hand. And we'll tap there, a few times. And this is where we'll state what the problem is. We'll say, for instance, if I'm experiencing stress, I'll say, even though I feel this stress, I choose to love and accept myself. And we'll say that 3 times. So we're stating a level of self-acceptance and self-love, even though we have this issue. And that goes along with the idea of this self-compassion when we are doing something, because the only reason we're feeling stress or anxiety or fear is because part of us believes we need to do that in order to protect ourselves. Even though it may not seem logical that it would be protecting us to feel anxiety, there's something inside that says, that's what I'm supposed to do. That's what I've learned. Maybe we've been around anxious people all our lives. Maybe our parents were very anxious, and so we learned from very young, we learned how to speak, we learned how to walk, and we learned how to be anxious in all kinds of different situations. We're brilliant. That's the thing, is that we keep calling ourselves stupid, but we're actually brilliant. Even when we're beating ourselves up, that's brilliant, because the more time I waste beating myself up, the more time I'm not making positive changes that can create change in my life that I'm afraid I can't handle. So beating ourselves up and calling ourselves stupid is one of the ways that we keep ourselves safely in our so-called comfort zone. So, so when we're tapping on the side of the hand, we're saying, I love and accept myself, even though I have this issue. Mm-hmm. And then the first point that we'll tap is the eyebrow point. So right at the beginning of the eyebrow, just about the center of your face. And we'll tap generally between 5 and 10 times. Sometimes we'll tap longer. As I go through a tapping round, I'll come up with different phrases, and so some of the phrases might be longer, so we might end up tapping a point, 20 times or something like that. Mm-hmm. Don't worry about it. It's not like it's an exact science of you must only tap between 5 and 10 times or the whole process doesn't work. It's a very forgiving process. And even, don't worry about it, because we're not doing acupuncture where we have a little tiny needle. We're using the fingertips. We're covering a pretty broad area, so so don't be too worried about, I've got to find the exact right place. So each of these meridians are often associated with different organs of the body, and these organs are often associated with different emotions. So typically, when we tap the eyebrow point, that tends to be associated with sadness and trauma. The next point we're going to tap is the side of the eye. And so you follow your eyebrow out to the corner of your eye socket and tapping on the edge of the eye, outside edge of the eye. And then, and as we're doing the tapping, we'll repeat whatever the issue was that we had. So, for instance, we said stress, even though I have all this stress. So we would tap the eyebrow point saying all this stress. Tapping the side of the eye, all this stress. And the side of the eye is generally associated with anger and resentment. The next point we're going to tap is right under the middle of the eye, just above the cheekbone, or at the top of the cheekbone. And so we'd say all this stress. And that point is generally associated with fear, as I mentioned before. That was the one that Dr. Callahan first used. Next point is right under the nose. And we would say all this stress. So this is right below the nose, just above the upper lip. This point is generally associated with embarrassment. Next point is right below the lower lip, just above the chin. And we'd say all this stress. And this point is generally associated with shame and guilt. Next point is the collarbone. And if you feel where your collarbones just about come together, there's a little U shape at the base of your throat. And if you make a fist and tap right there on those two ends of the collarbones, it's right about where a gentleman ties and puts the knot of his tie. Tapping right there. And this point is again associated with fear. Fear is such a prevalent thing, it gets 2 points.
Yeah.
The next point we're going to tap is under the arm. This is right about 4 inches below the armpit. It's right about bra strap level. And I'm sure even the guys can figure out where that one is. And this point is generally associated with low self-esteem. And then the last point we're going to tap is the top of the head. And so I use all of my fingertips and tap around in little circles around the crown of the head. And there's actually several meridians cross over at this point, so we're covering a bunch of different meridians there. Now, because you had asked, I mentioned the different emotions that are associated with the different points. Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't even use that only because with when Dr. Callahan first developed this, he would use different points depending on what emotion it was, what issue it was. And so he might use only 2 or 3 points in different sequences. And one of his first students was a gentleman named Gary Craig, who had trained as an engineer, and his thinking was, well, let's see what works more efficiently. Mm-hmm. And he found, well, if we just tap all of these points, it doesn't take any longer, really. And then we cover all of the bases, rather than thinking that we know which point we should tap. If we tap all of the points, we cover all of that. And so he called this new version of tapping emotional freedom technique, or EFT. So while it may be helpful, there may be times where you find yourself drawn to tapping one particular point, and you might notice, oh, maybe this is about this emotion. Don't worry about that. I mean, I mentioned it for sake of interest, and you can look that stuff up. But as we're tapping along, it's not important to be thinking about which particular emotions are associated with different points, because we're going to tap through all the points just to cover all the bases.
Well, now, Brad, I know we're going to do a tapping exercise to be open to more bliss in just a moment, but I'm wondering why something so simple is able to improve someone's health, wealth, and relationships. People spend a lot of money on each of these different parts of their lives trying to improve it, and so this is really simple. Is there a good answer for that?
Because life is meant to be simple. We have this thing about complicating it, but if you look at it from the standpoint of tapping reduces stress, if you were to look at tapping as nothing more than a stress relief technique, and as I said, we have scientific evidence showing that it reduces stress dramatically. Most of the issues that we face are stress-related. There are doctors who will say, 95% of illness is stress-related. The choices that we make are stress-related. When we feel stressed, we tend to make less beneficial choices. So whether that's making choices about our health, about what we eat, about exercising, like the other morning, I get up early in the morning to go running. And I got up the other morning, it's like, I don't want to run. It's like, well, let's do some tapping about that. And just do quick tapping. Because there's a part of me that does want to run. But there's just maybe some stress about something that would happen the day before. I wasn't even aware of what it was. It was just like, I just kind of don't feel like running right now. And had made a commitment that wasn't going to be an option. So I did some quick tapping and got my mojo up to want to run. And so we make better choices about our health, and then about our career and our finances. Again, it's about the choices we're making. Whether we choose to make certain calls, whether we choose to invest our money in wisely, whether we choose to save rather than spend when it's appropriate. There's all kinds of different choices we make, and whether we're making those choices from our logical prefrontal cortex or from our stressed out midbrain that says, I don't care, just make me feel good now. And
so when you get into that state, it's better just to start tapping.
That's what I think.
Okay.
I'm biased, but in the absence of something else, there are other techniques. There are wonderful stress relief courses that will teach you all kinds of things to generally reduce your stress, like getting a better night's sleep, eating a healthier diet, taking a walk at lunchtime. And these are all excellent things to do. Learning to meditate, excellent things to do. In the moment that you get a phone call that upsets you and you're feeling stress, you can't go back and get a better night's sleep the night before. You can't go back and eat a better lunch. You may not have time to go take a walk. You may be way too frazzled to meditate at that moment. Tapping is something very simple that you can do in that moment. If there's people around, sometimes I'll tap when there are people around, no big deal, I don't worry about that. Sometimes you may want to excuse yourself to the restroom, and there are also subtle ways that we can tap that are less noticeable. But in that moment, when it's such a quick and easy way to start reducing our stress, and sometimes it comes down incrementally, and sometimes it comes down like that. And I've seen numerous times where people go from a 10 to a 0 in a matter of moments.
Well, Brad, you say that negative emotions are manifested in the body as well as the mind. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, emotions, well, another word for emotions is feelings. So we feel them. If we're really, really angry, it's not like our body is totally relaxed and we're thinking, gosh, I'm really furious right now. it's a visceral experience. It's something that we feel throughout our body, and which is kind of evidence of the way that energy system is working, that we feel it all through our body. We're not just, it's not like our body is relaxed and we're thinking these different emotions. We can see it in people's body language. We can see when their emotions are heightened.
Okay. Well, I wanted to ask you one last question before we started the tapping. Are these results lasting?
Yeah. Generally what we clear, if there's something very specific that we're clearing, like if somebody says something to us that really upsets us, Bob says, I hate that report that you wrote, and I have this feeling of, I'm such an idiot, and when I think about Bob, I get really upset. If I do some tapping around that and I reduce that to where I think about Bob saying, I hate your report, and it's like, oh, okay, that it doesn't bother me anymore, I'm not likely to get upset thinking about Bob's comment about my report again. That particular thing is clear. We may be tapping on something, and later on an upset comes up again because we've done some clearing around a general issue, but there are other aspects to it that may come up. And so sometimes we'll tap about something, and like maybe we'll think about the way Bob talks to me. And if we tap on that particular time that he said, I hate your report, and that feels clear. And then later on we feel upset thinking about how Bob talks to us. It's like, I thought I cleared that. Well, yeah, we cleared that specific thing about the report, but there may be some other things that he said that we still haven't cleared. Right. So it just means there's more work to do. An analogy I used, if you had a field that you wanted to cultivate for farming and had all these big boulders, and you spend all day moving one boulder, and you're just exhausted, and you get it out of the way, and you're tired, you go to sleep, you get up the next morning, you come out, and there's still boulders in your field. It's like, what? I thought I cleared boulders, and now there's still boulders here. Well, you cleared that one.
Yeah.
Now, there are times that we're doing the tapping, and we have this mass effect where we clear a lot of things. We might do a few minutes of tapping about Bob's comment about the report, and we never get upset about Bob again. So that's entirely possible. It's just hard to say because we don't always know what all the different aspects are to the issues that we're clearing.
I see. Well, why don't we go ahead and do that tapping exercise now to open up to more bliss.
Excellent.
Okay.
And along with this idea, does it last? So, we're going to do some tapping here, and I'm not going to promise that we're going to tap to open up bliss, and you are going to be blissed out for the rest of your life from this moment.
Okay.
Just like you cannot eat a meal that is so good that you will never, ever be hungry again. Right. You cannot take a shower that is so refreshing that you will never need to bathe again. Okay. Please don't ever believe that you've taken a shower that was so great that you never, ever have to bathe again.
Yeah, okay. I understand what you're saying here.
Yeah. So, because stress comes up and new things will come up to bother us, I recommend tapping on a daily basis because stress comes up and so often we don't deal with it and it builds up. It's like if we didn't take a shower for a few days and then finally we're around people and they're holding their nose and walking away from us and then we go, oh, maybe now I should take a shower.
Okay.
My teeth are green. Maybe now I should brush my teeth.
Okay, yeah. I see
on a daily basis.
Okay.
It's energetic hygiene.
Okay.
Energetic
good.
hygiene. So let's do tapping around. So I've already explained what the tapping is and where the tapping points are. Here's the caveat that I always give, the warning. You must take full responsibility for your own well-being if you choose to tap. And the reason I always say that is because we're dealing with emotions. And if you were to, let's say you're going to invite company over, and you look at your living room and go, well, a company's going to come over, I'm going to clean up my living room. It's already pretty clean. I'd say it's an 8 out of 10 in terms of cleanliness. And as you're cleaning up, you move the rug and you realize there's a bunch of dirt under the rug. The last time you cleaned, you swept dirt under the rug. It's like, oh my goodness. And you move the sofa a little bit and you find there's some dirty socks under there. Now there's dirt there on the floor, there's socks under the sofa. Now it's like a 2 out of 10 on cleanliness.
Mm-hmm.
And so you might be going, well, I shouldn't have tried to clean up. Before I started cleaning, it was already an 8. Now I started cleaning, and now it's down to a 2. This can happen when we're tapping. So as we're talking about different things, you might remember something that you've been hiding under the sofa or sweeping under the rug, and now you're aware of it. And so someone who's unfamiliar, this might be inclined to say, wow, tapping made me feel worse. It's like, no, it just made you aware of what was there. But now you can take those socks and put them in the laundry. You can clean out under the rug. So now when you look at your room and it looks clean, it really is clean. Mm-hmm. Just like when you're feeling good, it's like, well, I thought I was feeling okay before. Now you really are feeling better because that stuff that you were trying to pretend wasn't there isn't there anymore.
Right.
So as you feel that stuff coming up.
Is there anything we should do before starting to tap other than that? I know we shouldn't be driving cars or operating machinery.
Yeah. Probably a good idea. Don't operate heavy machinery.
Okay.
And the reason I give the caveat is because if you suspect that, maybe you've been going through some really serious stuff right now, mm-hmm. You're going through a divorce or some serious stuff, and you know that there's not just a little bit of dust under that rug, there's like barrels of toxic waste under there. I'm going to suggest that you not do the tapping right now, mm-hmm. and wait until you've got someone there for emotional support. Or even better, if it's some heavy stuff, you might contact a professional. There's a lot of EFT practitioners out there, and work with someone one-on-one who can be there present, because I don't know who's listening to this. I don't know what's going on for you. So if some heavy stuff comes up, I won't be able to address that for you. So that's why I say, so that's why I say take full responsibility for your own well-being if you choose to tap right now. Now, for the most part, it's very safe. It's a harmless technique. It's not, I don't mean to make anyone nervous. It's very rare. I've never had a case where someone said, "Oh yes, I was tapping and it really upset me." Mm-hmm. But we have to say that just in case.
Right. Okay.
So for most people, it's going to be absolutely fine for you to tap along. And if some little discomfort does come up, just keep tapping, and you'll feel that go back down. And you'll actually be clearing it out as opposed to just pretending it's not there, which is what we tend to do.
Right, and also you can listen to the call again if you want to clear even further, or you can continue tapping on those same issues if you feel the need to do that as well.
Yep. And we'll be talking later about other ways that they can continue doing more resources to clear even more stuff out. So, with that being said, what I'd like everyone to do is close your eyes, take a deep breath in and hold it, and let it go. Now, just breathing comfortably with your eyes closed, just go ahead and follow your breath through your body. Just check in with yourself, something that we don't do nearly enough. Check in, see how you're doing. Notice how you're feeling physically. Notice how you're feeling emotionally. And if bliss was a 10 on a 0 to 10 scale, ask yourself, where am I? And please do not judge yourself harshly if the number is low. If it comes up as a 1 or a 2, don't go, oh, I'm such an idiot, why aren't I more blissed? It's because something inside of you says it's not okay to feel blissed. It's not safe to feel blissed. And that's what we're going to be working on. In fact, as you allow yourself to be aware of where your number is at, to the extent that it might not be a 10, ask yourself, why couldn't it or why shouldn't it be a 10? And allow yourself to be aware of what thoughts, beliefs, and memories might come up as to why you couldn't or shouldn't feel more bliss. And just notice what those are. Take another deep breath, open your eyes. And so I'll be mentioning what points to tap. And Kenyette, if you will be my echo voice and repeat back the phrases that I say.
Sure.
Great. And then, so everyone else tapping, just repeat back what I say as well while tapping those points.
Okay.
So starting on the side of the hand.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I sometimes resist bliss,
Even though I sometimes resist bliss,
I choose to love and accept myself anyway.
I choose to love and accept myself anyway.
Even though I sometimes resist bliss,
Even though I sometimes resist bliss,
I choose to love and honor myself anyway.
I choose to love and honor myself anyway.
Even though I sometimes resist bliss,
Even though I sometimes resist bliss,
part of me might know
part of me might know
that bliss is my birthright.
that bliss is my birthright.
I have the capacity for it inside.
I have the capacity for it inside.
But it gets covered up with stuff.
But it gets covered up with stuff.
And I choose to clear some of that stuff away.
And I choose to clear some of that stuff away.
And even though I sometimes resist bliss,
And even though I sometimes resist bliss,
I choose to deeply and completely
I choose to deeply and completely
love, honor, and accept myself.
love, honor, and accept myself.
And maybe anyone else
And maybe anyone else
who has taught me to resist bliss.
who has taught me to resist bliss.
Okay, tapping the eyebrow point. All this resistance to more bliss.
All this resistance to more bliss.
Side of the eye. All this resistance to more bliss.
All this resistance to more bliss.
Under the eye. All this possible fear of bliss.
All this possible fear of bliss.
Onto the nose. But why would I be afraid of bliss?
But why would I be afraid of bliss?
Onto the mouth. There might be all kinds of reasons.
There might be all kinds of reasons.
Collarbone. I might be afraid bliss would make me stupid.
I might be afraid bliss would make me stupid.
Onto the arm. I've heard that ignorance is bliss.
I've heard that ignorance is bliss.
Top of the head. So maybe bliss is ignorance.
So maybe ignorance is bliss.
Eyebrow point.
Bliss is ignorance.
Maybe people will say.
Maybe people will say,
Side of the eye. You look too happy.
you look too happy.
On the eye. Aren't you paying attention to what's going on?
Aren't you paying attention to what's going on?
Onto the nose. You must be stupid.
You must be stupid.
Onto the mouth. All this fear that feeling bliss.
All this fear of feeling bliss
Collarbone. Will make other people critical of me.
will make other people critical of me.
Onto the arm. And that'll take away my bliss.
And that will take away my bliss.
Top of the head. So I better deprive myself of bliss now.
So I better deprive myself of bliss now.
Eyebrow point. Before anyone else has the chance to take it away.
Before anyone else has a chance to take it away.
Side of the eye. And part of me believes that actually makes sense.
And part of me believes that actually makes sense.
Onto the eye. Rather than feeling as much bliss as possible.
Rather than feeling as much bliss as possible.
Onto the nose. As often as possible.
As often as possible.
Onto the mouth. And if something happens to take it away.
And if something happens to take it away.
Collarbone. There's always more where that came from.
There's always more where that came from.
Onto the arm. And I can get back to bliss soon.
And I can get back to bliss soon.
Top of the head. Why might I resist bliss?
Why might I resist bliss?
Eyebrow point. All this possible fear that I don't deserve it.
All this possible fear that I don't deserve it.
Side of the eye. What do I think I need to do?
What do I think I need to do?
Out of the eye. Before I'm deserving of bliss.
Before I'm deserving of bliss.
Out of the nose. And if that's the case.
And if that's the case.
On the mouth. Why don't I do those things?
Why don't I do those things?
Collarbone. I'm clearing whatever stops me.
I'm clearing whatever stops me.
Onto the arm. Clearing these reasons for not making better choices.
Clearing these reasons for not making better choices.
Top of the head. Clearing these reasons for not taking better action.
Clearing these reasons for not taking better action.
Eyebrow point. I don't stop myself because I'm bad or stupid.
I don't stop myself because I'm bad or stupid.
Side of the eye. I do it because I think I'm protecting myself.
I do it because I think I'm protecting myself.
Onto the eye. I have all this old programming.
I've got all of this old programming.
Onto the nose. That stops me from taking better actions.
That stops me from taking better actions.
Onto the mouth. I have all this old programming.
All this old programming.
Collarbone. That stops me from feeling more bliss.
That stops me from feeling more bliss.
Onto the arm. And I'm clearing that old programming.
And I'm clearing that old programming.
Top of the head. Clearing it at a cellular level.
Clearing it at a cellular level.
Eyebrow point. Clearing it all the way back through my past.
Clearing it all the way back through my past.
Side of the eye. Even back through my childhood.
Even back through my childhood.
Onto the eye. Back through all these times in my life.
Back through all of these times in my life.
Onto the nose, where I may have gotten the message.
Where I may have gotten the message.
Onto the mouth, that I couldn't or shouldn't feel bliss.
That I couldn't or shouldn't feel bliss.
Collarbone, that it was somehow wrong to feel bliss.
That it was somehow wrong to feel bliss.
Onto the arm, that it wasn't safe to feel bliss.
That it wasn't safe to feel bliss.
Top of the head, all this fear that it's not safe to feel bliss.
All this fear that it's not safe to feel bliss.
Eyebrow point, I choose to clear that.
I choose to clear that.
Side of the eye, releasing this fear from every fiber of my being.
Releasing this fear from every fiber of my being.
Onto the eye, allowing myself much more bliss.
Allowing myself much more bliss.
Onto the nose, I choose to allow more bliss right now.
I choose to allow more bliss right now.
Onto the mouth, and part of me might be saying.
And part of me might be saying.
Collarbone, are you kidding me?
Are you kidding me?
On the arm, with all the things going on in our life right now.
With all the things going on in our life right now.
Top of the head, there's no way you could feel bliss.
There's no way you can feel bliss.
Eyebrow point, all these reasons why I couldn't or shouldn't feel bliss right now.
All these reasons why I couldn't or shouldn't feel bliss right now.
Side of the eye, I choose to clear any fear.
I choose to clear any fear.
Onto the eye, that if I were feeling bliss.
That if I were feeling bliss.
Onto the nose, I wouldn't do what I need to do.
That I wouldn't do what I need to do.
Onto the mouth, I might want to make more money.
I might want to make more money.
Collarbone, I might want to lose weight.
I might want to lose weight.
On the arm, I might want to find that special someone.
I might want to find that special someone.
Top of it, but I won't if I'm feeling bliss.
But I won't if I'm feeling bliss.
Eyebrow point, if I'm already in bliss while I'm in debt, who cares?
If I'm already in bliss while I'm experiencing debt, who cares?
Side of the eye, if I'm feeling bliss, who cares about exercising?
If I'm feeling bliss, who cares about exercising?
On the eye, I'm clearing all of this nonsense.
I'm clearing all of this nonsense.
On the nose, because the more bliss I experience.
Because the more bliss I experience.
Onto the mouth, and the more I allow myself to feel good.
And the more I allow myself to feel good.
Collarbone, and the more I allow myself to love myself.
And the more I allow myself to love myself.
Onto the arm, the more I naturally want to take better care of myself.
The more I naturally want to take better care of myself.
Top of it. The more I naturally want to do nice things for myself.
The more I naturally want to do nice things for myself.
Eyebrow point. Things that are nice in the big sense.
Things that are nice in the big sense.
Side of the eye. Creating the life that I really want.
Creating the life that I really want.
Under the eye. Not the little treats that have consequences.
Not the little treats that have consequences.
Out of the nose. When I'm really loving myself.
When I'm really loving myself.
Out of mouth. Then I feel really motivated to create the life I want.
Then I feel really motivated to create the life that I want.
Collarbone. So it's safe to feel better.
So it's safe to feel better.
Out of the arm. And so I'm allowing myself to feel more bliss.
So I'm allowing myself to feel more bliss.
Top of the head. In body, mind, and spirit.
In body, mind, and spirit.
And take a deep breath. Close your eyes, take a deep breath. And following your breath through your body, check in with yourself. And on that scale of 0 to 10, if 10 is bliss, check and see if your number has changed. For a lot of folks, that number is going to go up. Some people might be topping out over 10 right now.
Right.
And for some folks, it may be, well, I don't know if the number has really changed or maybe even gone down a little bit, but I know what it is now. And you may have much greater clarity now about what's in the way. Well, I can't feel bliss because I need to deal with this. And it may be a need to do some tapping on a specific issue or a specific person, a specific situation to do that. So we often keep ourselves from having clarity because the more clarity we have, the more we can make change. And if we're afraid of change, then we're not going to allow ourselves to be clear. So as we're doing the tapping and we're reducing the stress and we're reducing the fear, we allow ourselves to get greater clarity. And we start to think of, oh, this is what it is. This is what maybe what I need to address. And maybe I need to go and need to have a conversation with someone. I need to change a certain situation. And so we get that the freedom to do that as we tap.
Right, Brad. Well, thank you so much for going through that with us just now. I am so happy that we were able to tap on Bliss. Now, I know when I first started using EFT, I was confused about what parts to tap and what words to say and if I was saying it right. And it's better to kind of, at least it's easier for me to follow what someone else is doing and kind of tap on the issues that I have coming up at that time, but to kind of help letting someone else kind of guide me through that. And so I've for everyone who's listening to the call today, I've asked Brad to put together a special offer. And for anyone who's interested in having him work with them. And he has the special offer. And, Brad, I wanted you to kind of go through that special offer with us. But before you do, if you are on the webcast, you can simply just hit the special offer button, and that will take you to the information there. But also there's a link that you can go to, and it's actually a shortened link. It's http:// bit.ly/1 capital W lowercase QQD capital X capital L. So, Brad, if you could just go through that.
You got that? There can be a test on it later.
No, it's easier just to hit the special offer button.
Yeah. Push the button, Max. So, thank you. Yeah, this is what I call the optimal well-being package. So, well-being to me, is what we're kind of going for. It's about thriving in life and experiencing the sense of thriving in all areas and this sense of well-being personally, professionally, physically, financially. And so what I did is I put together a package of a bunch of different programs that covers all kinds of different issues. I've got talking about golf beyond belief, so talking about sports and athletic performance, sales beyond belief, and the things that we need to do to improve our business. Tapping into creativity as a program for expanding our creativity. And then I've got a couple of books are in there, like the book called The Key to Success, which is, I originally wrote it as a companion to all the other self-help books out there. It's like, there's great information here. Until you're clear, you might not use that great information. And so here's how to use tapping to get clear and really get the most benefit out of other programs you might listen to or read. So each of these programs, whether it's reading book or there's many hours of tapping where you will follow along as I'm going through the tapping. And several of these many of them are just very short tapping rounds on particular issues, and several are recordings of teleseminars where I'm working with someone and going through and clearing something that's come up for them. And what's great about that is as you're tapping along, either one, you're going to go, wow, that's exactly like my issue, and you're going to be tapping to clear something that you're aware of is blocking you. Or you may hear it and go, that doesn't really sound relevant. But as you're tapping along, there's something we call borrowing benefits, where as we're clearing and tapping through, we're actually clearing our own stuff, even if it doesn't sound, even if what we're saying doesn't sound exactly like what we think is our issue. So there's benefit in tapping along with it, even if part of you says, oh, no, that's not what it is for me. Which is part of you being brilliant in coming up with ways to avoid it. It's like, oh, if I can come up with an excuse as to why not to tap on this, then I get to stay in my comfort zone and not change. Right. Yay!
Right. So, well, I'm very interested in all of your programs in here, and one of the ones that I'm really interested in is the Program Yourself for Success. And the reason why is because I think we all think that we are successful, kind of, sort of, moving towards that a lot of times, but there might be something lower than what you even realize, that you can do even more or feel even better or strive for even more just by clearing a few things or clearing through issues that you have. And so I'm certainly interested in continuing to listen to that. And I'll also mention this too, Brad, that I remember when you did a tapping session using the Napoleon Hill book, Think and Grow Rich. Yes. And I thought that was phenomenal for you to put that together and just apply it in that way. So I just think, being able to apply EFT to books that you love and read and kind of going through those, just absolutely wonderful.
It gives us that much more freedom to really make use of it, because while part of us might get excited reading a book or listening to an audio program or watching a movie, there's another part of us that says, that's fine, you go ahead and be excited, but we're still going to make sure we don't take action on this. Not because we're bad or stupid, but because part of us says it's not safe. It's fine to get excited about it and fantasize about it. There's no real consequences to that. If you want to make more money, dream about the new car and the house and all that. We just don't want to have to pay the insurance on the car. We don't want to have to pay the mortgage on the house or deal with moving. Oh my goodness, moving is a pain in the butt. So as long as I can avoid the money, then I can just fantasize about the house without actually having to deal with all of the escrow and all of that stuff.
Exactly.
It's brilliant. We brilliantly take care of ourselves. So, and the Program Yourself for Success, I really enjoyed doing that one because that included guided imagery. I actually started as a hypnotherapist before I got into tapping, and so I still love to do that. So that's that particular program is a fun incorporation of both the guided imagery and the tapping.
Which I would think would make it even more powerful if you have both of those included in there in that same program. Well, wonderful. Well, Brad, I know that we are at the end of the hour. I feel like it's just flown by. You have shared so much with us today on EFT. And I was just looking just to see if we had some questions, some additional questions, but perhaps we can share that another time that you're on.
Be happy to.
Well, wonderful. Well, thank you again for being with us today, Brad. I really appreciate that.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for doing what you're doing and getting information out there, and I really appreciate this opportunity to share this work.
Well, wonderful. And I also wanted to just let everyone who's listening in also know that I really appreciate you being here and, just listening in today. So often we get caught up in living our lives that we don't make the time to actually live our best lives or even to completely best take care of ourselves. And that care could come in the form of physical, emotional, spiritual, and energetic well-being. I'd like to encourage anyone who's interested in improving their lives to use something as simple as tapping when you feel the stresses of the day coming on you. I know from personal experience when it seemed like nothing else worked, EFT was effective in helping me clear issues that felt overwhelming at the time. And I'm sure that it can do the same for you. All many of us need are a few extra reminders or a little extra help in achieving bliss more often in our lives, and I hope these calls are helping you in that way. So as always, I encourage you to join us as often as you can and get into these places of learning and hoping and knowing that it is possible to live your bliss today. Until next time, take care.